If you're a musical theater person, then you most likely know what Chicago is. Even if you have just a baseline knowledge of musical theater, you've probably heard a song or two from this show. For those who don't know, Chicago is a musical written by composer John Kander and lyricist Fred Ebb, with a book by Ebb and Bob Fosse, a historical musical theater figure. It explores the themes of celebrity, scandal, and corruption in Chicago during the Jazz Age. It follows Roxy Hart, who is arrested after murdering her secret lover. She meets a woman named Velma Kelly, jailed for similar circumstances, as the two fight for the attention of hotshot lawyer Billy Flynn with the help of a prison guard named Mama Morton. We also meet a tabloid sob sister named Mary Sunshine and Roxy's husband Amos. Chicago is a historically loved piece of musical theater and one of the longest running shows still actively running on Broadway. I was familiar with Ebb and Kander's previous work on a musical called Cabaret, which is honestly one of the best musicals I've ever seen. Also, as a little fun fact, when I was in high school, I did a production of Chicago as Billy Flynn, so I like the show. Chicago originally started as a stage play written by Maureen Dallas Watkins in 1926. The play, while fiction, is a satire based on two unrelated 1924 court cases involving two women, Beulah, a nun, and Belva Gartner, who went on to be the inspirations for Roxy Hart and Velma Kelly respectively. They were both accused and later acquitted of murder, and Watkins had covered them in the Chicago Tribune as a reporter. Fun factoid number 2, even though this play premiered as Chicago, obviously it's not called that anymore because of the musical that's way bigger, but it's still produced under the name Play Ball, so... And turns out Chicago has actually gotten a few movie adaptations. This play was first adapted into a 1927 silent film called Chicago. Then again in 1942 it was adapted into, this time, a talking movie called Roxy Hart. Both of them follow basically the same exact plot as the play. And then in 1975 the play was finally adapted into a musical, which then itself got a movie adaptation in 2002. This movie adaptation being the basis for our video today, as it went on to be the best movie musical adaptation that exists, and I don't think any other movie musical has come even close to the level that this movie does. Chicago won 6 Academy Awards in 2003, including Best Picture, making it the most recent musical to be crowned Best Picture since the movie Oliver in 1968. I just kind of want that factoid to have a little space for it because, the last musical to be crowned Best Picture was in 1968, and it took damn near 50 years until 2003. And Chicago absolutely nails a formula of visual storytelling that I haven't seen any other movie musical do. For those not familiar with Chicago, it's kind of a canon that all the musical numbers in the film are made up in Roxy's head. And Chicago likes to switch between the real world sequences and the glitzy musical numbers that are in Roxy's head, and often there are multiple switches in one scene. And the reason I love this so much is because one of the best things a movie musical can do is take advantage of the film medium and do things on screen you can never do on stage. The film cutting between the real world and Roxy's musical daydreams multiple times in one number couldn't be executed on stage, but the movie does it very well. While Chicago received critical acclaim, it got particular praise for the performances of the cast, because this film is legitimately perfectly cast. Chicago on Broadway is very well known in the modern day for doing some questionable stunt casts in order to boost ticket sales. And while some have been okay, some have been not very good. The same cannot be said for the movie because every single lead actor perfectly embodies the role to perfection. To start off with, when I think of Billy Flynn, I genuinely cannot think of any other person playing him than Richard Gere. Richard Gere brings this smarmy assholeness to Billy that I feel is very, very necessary for his character. In fact, one of the first lines we hear Billy say when he's introduced explains his entire character.
Now look, Hart, I don't like to blow my own horn, but believe me, if Jesus Christ had lived in Chicago today and if he had $5,000 and he'd come to me, things would have turned out differently.
Next, Catherine Zeta-Jones is the Velma Kelly. I want to give a particular shout out to her because she performed this role while pregnant. Chicago is a very, very dance-heavy show and movie, especially with the characters of Roxy and Velma. These roles on Broadway are very known for their difficult dancing, and let alone doing that while pregnant? Insane. John C. Reilly as Amos Hart and his rendition of Mr. Cellophane is honestly heartbreaking. Amos only ever gets one song in the show, but he absolutely fucking nails it. John C. Reilly's Mr. Cellophane is my absolute favorite ever version of the song, and this is an old song. Mr. Cellophane has been around for a long time. John C. Reilly isn't exactly seen as a serious actor, but in Chicago, he brings his whole heart to this role. Honestly, with the casting of Amos, Billy, and Mama Morton, who I haven't talked about yet, but she's coming up, I cannot see anyone else playing these characters other than the movie cast. The movie is mostly faithful to the original stage show, with any changes that there are kind of adding to it. The only real big change I've seen people not be a fan of is that they cut out the song Class, which is a song between Mama Morton and Velma, but the film uses its dynamic direction and its editing, which we will get back to the editing later on, to energize the entire show and to underline its themes. One of my favorite things about Chicago is how cynical the tone is of the show, and this movie is spot on with it. And this movie resists the notion that films must open out stage musicals either by introducing locations or stunts or visual tricks. To show this as a bit of a contrast, I found the movie adaptation of Wicked, which is still one of the better examples of a stage show adapted to a movie, to be kind of tiring. Dancing Through Life is a great song, and I love how upbeat it is. But in the movie, it became all about silly mechanical stunts with rotating library shelves and performers leaping about acrobatically. The actual dance element, which is the source of the number's exuberance enjoying the stage version, is basically gone. I'm a big fan of the little cameo from Cheetah Rivera, which was the original Velma Kelly on Broadway.
Ever had Morton before? She's fine. Long as you keep her happy.
The actors make their characters morally complex, and while none of them is playing someone worth true admiration, you can't help but sympathize with these narcissistic murderers and manipulators. And if that isn't a sign of great acting, I'm not sure what is. There are visual elements that, while possible to convey on stage, are better suited to film, which can leave little Easter eggs hidden in plain sight. For example, in the establishing shot for the scene in which Roxy and Billy are walking into the press conference, there's a painting of what seems to be an angel, her wings wide open as she plays a large trumpet. The word fame is written above her head, while she is holding a banner that reads their names and deeds. It is the perfect, subtle imagery to convey that Roxy seeks fame and fortune in order to sanctify herself in the eyes of the public, despite her heinous crime. And then, in the subsequent song We Both Reached for the Gun, we get the visual gag of journalists seemingly controlled by strings. But we also see a shot of Billy actually pulling the strings from above, like an omnipotent god. This also shows that he has control over the narrative of Roxy's story. Also, to talk about casting again for a bit, I would be doing this movie a disservice if I didn't mention Queen Latifah as Mama Morton. She speaks in multiple interviews on her love for stage tunes and going through 3 different auditions for the role of Mama. Queen Latifah's Morton has been critically acclaimed as one of the best takes on her character in the history of the show's existence, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. Queen Latifah is the blueprint for Mama Morton. She has the sassiness, the spunk, and the provocative element that defines Mama Morton as a character. In the stage show, Mama Morton is not really that important of a character, and if played by the wrong person can be very boring. When You're Good to Mama is one of the best songs in the entire show, full stop, but outside of that, she's not that important. Queen Latifah's Mama makes herself important. She absolutely steals any scene that she is in. Now, I'd like to end off this video by going over some of the criticisms about the movie Chicago and just giving my thoughts on them. The most common grievance across critical consensus is the film's editing. Director Rob Marshall and editor Martin Walsh opted for rapid cross-cutting and jarring camera angles during the dance numbers. Critics argue this obscured the choreography and rarely lets the cast's dance routines play out in full. I argue this is an intentional editing choice that adds to the film's style. Several reviews have criticized the film's moral vacuum. Roxy Hart, Velma Kelly, Billy Flynn are often described as self-serving manipulative scumbags, making it difficult for some audience members to root for anyone other than Amos. That's the point. As someone that's played Billy Flynn before, you're not supposed to like these characters. There are basically no good people in Chicago. You are not supposed to like these people, and that's okay. That does not ruin the story. All in all, I absolutely love this movie, and I love Chicago. And while neither are my personal favorite movie or stage show, I can still see that Chicago is the best movie musical adaptation of the modern age. If you disagree with me, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to read them. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and comment below some things you'd like to see me talk about in the future. In the description, I have my link tree if you'd like to check out some of the other stuff I have. And yeah, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.